Hello, and welcome to another episode of For the Love of Sports. My name is Michael Rasile. This is the show where we get to talk about sports, we get to talk about business, and we get to talk about everything in between. Wherever you're listening, however you're listening, you know exactly what to do. Like and subscribe on YouTube, 5-star review on Spotify, and over on Apple Podcasts, give me a 5-star review and say something really nice about me and my incredible guest. Today I have Rachel Sanders. She's the CEO and co-founder of Rootine, and also the host of the Precision Health Podcast. Rachel, how you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me on.
Pleasure is all mine. This is my favorite thing I get to do, so I appreciate you letting me ask you some questions here for 30 or 40 minutes. I think we'll have a really good time. And Rachel, I'm excited to learn a little bit more about Rootine. Anybody out there that's watching and or listening, it's Rootine. Cute little play on words there. Always excited when I get to see those. But Rachel, the first question I have for everybody on the For the Love of Sports podcast is, why do you love sports so much?
I think everybody's an athlete, whether you're a professional athlete or you're a busy professional, or you are a weekend warrior who likes to work out and or go on a run or go on on a bike. And there's that aspect of how are you constantly being better? How are you training? How are you being your best self that you get from athletics? I was not a professional athlete, but I did grow up playing sports. And I think you learn so much with being able to kind of think about that, think about constant optimization, think about your performance and how you're getting better, both on and off the field, as your sports time changes as you age or as you change and how you're kind of living your life.
Yeah, the rec 30-year-old basketball player, like shout out to those men and women. It's not quite the same as it used to be, and it's not going to be the same in 10 years after that, right? But there's still an opportunity to get better. We always love talking about getting better on this show. I'm very much a believer in 1% every day. That's all you're trying to do. Just 1% better, make today better than the last day, and you're going to be going places. I always think that's great. So very grateful to have you on to talk about that. And I guess I'm kind of curious, like with the way that you think about sports and have thought about sports. I mean, me personally, I have a Peloton back here. I love it. It is the absolute best. I go on walks every day. I'm kind of curious, like for you now with where you are with, all the work that you get to do and all the fun meetings that I'm sure you're on, what are you doing outside of Routine? We'll get to that in a second. Like, what are you doing to stay active, stay healthy, just take your mind away from the damn computer screen every once in a while?
I'm a huge proponent of exercise and working out and movement. I do it every day if I possibly can. I have 2 kids, so it's a little hard to do it all the time, plus be a founder, plus be a podcast host. But I do everything from strength training to playing tennis in the summer. I'm a big golfer when the weather's good, when I have time. I also have a Peloton. I use the app Future, which has automated my workouts and helped me stay active. Also big on walking. Just got a walking pad, so I do like 2 to 3 hours of walking a day. I try to while on video calls and just really staying active. It's very helpful for creativity. It's helpful for kind of being your best self, as we talked about.
Can't agree more. I also got one of those walking treadmills for my desk for Christmas. Shout out, thanks my mom. I don't use it as much now that the weather's nicer, but when it was in the winter, I try and pop that bad boy under there every day or so and really get going. And so I'm curious, like Rootine. I guess we'll just start, as I said, Rootine, Rootine. I mean, what an adorable name. I absolutely love it. Where did the idea for this come from as talking to the co-founder and CEO? How'd you guys come up with this?
Yeah, well, Routine is really your daily health simplified, where we help you understand what's going on in your body and achieve your health goals faster. And we do it through convenient at-home testing, custom nutrient solutions, and personalized guidance, really for your unique needs. And what we saw is that people had access to a lot of different products. There was all these companies coming online, but no one was really connecting the dots between what's going on in your data, what products and solutions you really need, and how do you do it in a really simple, easy to understand way for the average person who simply just doesn't have the time or the money to do this guess and check game where you're getting 14 supplements or you're trying this workout or doing that other thing that may or may not work. Our goal is to really help you transform your health data into better health results in a really easy, simple to use way. And the impetus, how we got started, is thinking early on in my life. I'm an athlete, middle schooler. All of a sudden, I start to have pretty significant health issues, gut health issues, other pain impacting my school, my sports, and how I was playing kind of overall in my life. And the medical system really failed me. I would go to doctors, and overall the message was, your nutrition doesn't matter, your lifestyle doesn't matter, here's this drug they're putting a 12-year-old on, and let's start here. Except for the drug is their it's secondary use of a kind of like antidepressant drug for like stomach and gut health issues, which isn't conducive to a happy, healthy middle schooler. And so I took it kind of my health concerns under my own guidance, and I decided, all right, I'm going to take control of my health. I'm going to do what I think I need to do for nutrition. I'm going to change my lifestyle. And it was really DIY guess and check methodology to figure out what was wrong and how to fix it. Fast forward to starting my career as an investment banker. I don't know how much you know about investment banking, but 4 years as an analyst, you work a lot and you don't do a lot else. That creates stress, fatigue, burnout. And I once again said, all right, I'm going to try to look at my nutrition, look at my lifestyle, look at my movement. How do I improve how I'm feeling given the world in which I'm living in? And that was, again, really like guess and check, wasted time, wasted money. Like so many people tried all these things. Nothing was really working. And at the same time was seeing all of this innovation happening in data and technology in the banking side. So I was working in healthcare tech. And I said, why aren't we applying all of this innovation to help people figure out how to kind of support themselves, how to take control of their own health, how to help prevent them from getting sick instead of spending all this money on sick care when people get sick. And kind of through that experience, got my MBA and connected with my now co-founder, Daniel, who is a PhD in biotechnology. So he's a crazy scientist behind everything we do. And we saw like consumers were having so much more access to health data. So now, we have our wearables, we have at-home lab testing, we have just all this really cool innovation that's coming, this pipeline of innovation that's coming of the type of data that you can get access to. But we weren't using it, and we weren't actioning it. And even today, people have wearables. I have an Apple Watch. It's sometimes even hard for me to find where my HRV is with my Apple Health, let alone like, what do I do with HRV? What does it mean? How do I action it? And so what we're doing is we're connecting lab test results. We're connecting your lifestyle data. It's over 100 health data points per member, and simplifying it in here are some simple solutions on supplementation, simple solutions on diet, on how you think about kind of overall your personalized guidance to achieve the goals that you're really looking for in a really data-driven way.
I love that. I think that is absolutely fantastic. Thank you. There's so many things on this watch that I have that I don't know what any of them do. They keep pushing it to me. It's like, hey, your oxygen levels at night were good. It's like, okay. Could I improve it? Do I need to improve it? Like, is there anything here I can do like that's actionable, as you said? It's just kind of, here's some information. It's like, okay, I'll get my 10,000 steps. That's pretty easy. And I'll try and be active. That's also pretty easy. But some of the other stuff that they keep throwing at us, I don't really know what it means. They don't do a very good job at how I can improve it. And at one point that you made in the beginning, I'm very cynical when it comes to politicians, pharmaceutical companies, and the stock market. So those are just three things about me, and you kind of hit 2 out of 3 with investment banking in the in the healthcare space. So did you see some of these things coming down the pipeline and say, hey, this is probably the way we're going, or was it a little bit more organic than kind of being a little bit further upstream than most people like myself would be able to even come up with some of these crazy ideas?
A bit of both. So it's a little bit of a vision of how I believe the world should be and how healthcare should work. And a little of, we did actually see this start to happen even when I started in my career. The kind of wellness world is becoming more data-driven and professionalized. The healthcare world is trending a little bit more towards wellness. People are starting to see the value of taking control of their own health, and that was very much accelerated by the pandemic, where people are like, oh, I actually am the one that has the control over how my body is going to act. Like, I can't just rely on someone else to tell me what to do, how to do it, or if I do get sick, I'm just going to rely and put that on someone else, right? So all of these trends kind of came together, and we're seeing it go forward. And as you look at the market, or you look at what kind of the professionals are saying around where we're going, is everything is personalized, but it makes sense because we're unique. A 300-pound athlete, 20-something, shouldn't be taking the same supplements as a 150-pound, like 50-year-old woman. It just doesn't make sense. There should be differences. The dosing is different. Their needs are different, and their biology is different. So what they're for example, cortisol levels or what their cortisol curve is going to look like is going to be very different from what somebody else's is. And so how do we take all of this data that's going on that we're getting access to and actually action it into a personalized health system is the question that it's on a lot of people's minds, especially the ones building in and around health. And it's even taking some of these things that some professional athletes have already have access to, right? Like they've got dietitians, they're testing their blood levels, they're testing their genetics, they're testing all of these things. They're getting hyper personalized experiences within health and wellness for thousands and thousands of dollars. But everyone should have access to this. So how do you democratize access to it? How do you make, as I mentioned earlier, like everybody's an athlete? How do you make more people get access to the tools that the athletes actually have?
Great question, Rachel. How do you make regular people like myself get access to some of these tools that athletes have? Just random question off the top of my head. Sorry.
You have to go to Rootine. That's one really kind of easy way to do it. But yeah, we get you access to at-home lab tests for a fraction of the cost that it would be with a clinician or at a lab. We help you kind of do all of this personalization, and really the underpinning is tech. So we've built out this really complex technology that looks at hundreds of health data points, compares it to clinical studies, incorporates other outcomes, and to simplify it, we just make it super easy to like take all of this complex stuff that's going on in the background and actually action it, which is the hard part.
And I guess, like, from the mad scientist perspective, or I'm sorry, I don't want to use mad scientist. What was your partner, Daniel? What was the crazy scientist?
I call him the crazy scientist. Yeah.
There we go. From his perspective, I guess, like, when you get all this information, you get all this data, right? So you have all this stuff. How are the personalizations? How are the customizations done? Is it done just simply looking at these and saying, well, this is low, it needs to be higher, this is high, this is how we get it lower? Or what exactly is going into, I guess, the I don't want to say concoction, that makes it sound a little over the top and dramatic, but what's going into these supplements that you guys are sending to your customers saying, like, hey, this is what should happen, these are the things you should be paying attention to, and this is how we believe you'll get better?
So we have two tracks. We have everyday nutrition and daily health, and then we have stress. So starting with the daily health, our kind of core product within that is the Precision Multivitamin. It's a smart multivitamin formula of up to 20 nutrients, custom dosed per individual. And all of that dosing is done by comparing an individual's, one of our members' health data to clinical studies, and how their data compares to clinical studies. So it's all based in science, using nutrients that are clinically proven to impact health and performance in humans. And then we dose it for the individual. And then we help you track how it's working for you over time and update your formula to fine tune as it changes. And that's really the magic there. So it's all based in science. Then we layer on you, and then we provide you the product, and then we continue to get better with you alongside you. On the stress side, this is our newest program where it's a at-home salivary cortisol test, so it's just saliva. We look at your cortisol curve, understand where your cortisol levels are compared to the optimal, and we come up with optimal based on a review of 144,000 curves that we've looked at with clinicians, labs, etc., to see what the optimal range really is and where you fit. And then based on where your curve is and the symptoms that you're experiencing, because we each experience stress differently, even if you have the exact same curve, your stress response may show up in different symptoms like brain fog or weight gain or just general irritability. There's all sorts of different symptoms. And based on those inputs, we recommend these targeted supplements based on symptoms to help support your cortisol balance.
That is awesome. Yeah, stress is really bad. It turns out it's kind of one of those things I learned at a really young age. Like, stress is really bad for you. It's terrible for your health, your mental health, your physical health, like just all around bad. And I'm actually curious. So I'm in the middle of reading a book. It's called Why We Sleep, and it's absolutely fantastic. Anybody out there, if you haven't read it, highly, highly suggested. But one of the things that happens when you don't sleep enough is actually your cortisol levels increase, and your fight or flight kicks in a little bit sooner. That's the irritability that you were talking about. I guess how can you, like, you know, as we were saying before, right? You're a 12-year-old girl. The doctor's like, don't worry about your nutrition or your activity. Just take this drug. Like, again, little cynical on my part. How can you see other factors like sleep, maybe, that you're not able to, like, sit there and watch this guy, like, this person say, like, hey, like, your cortisol level's high? Well, is it because you only sleep 4 hours a night? Like, maybe you should try and get, you know, the recommended 7. Like, I'm curious, how do you take in other environmental factors outside of just like the blood test?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it's all interconnected, right? There's kind of four main pillars of health if you think about sleep, nutrition, movement, and mental health, and they're all connected and interconnected in very strong ways. And so we look at lifestyle as a big component of what's going on, and sleep falls within that. And we're also working on integrating with wearables in such that we'll be able to see more specific sleep information around total sleep, deep sleep, REM sleep, and kind of understand sleep quality. There's also specific supplements and products that you need for different problems that people experience with sleep. So for example, some people have trouble staying asleep. Are different solutions. Other people have trouble falling asleep. Other people just have overall, they don't sleep enough. And there's different solutions and kind of ways to help guide people towards better sleep, but also better days with less stress. And if you fix both at the same time and you understand what's going on with both, you have a better ability to kind of level up and elevate your success towards achieving those goals.
100%. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, and the opportunity, as you said, to integrate with some of these wearables. The data's there. I'm sure, it might cost you guys a couple dollars to get it, or I don't really know how that part works. But, I mean, I'm sure Apple and Google, they're not just giving this shit away for free, let's be honest. But at the same time, I think that, as you said, everything is becoming personalized. Everything's becoming customizable because we finally have all this data. How difficult is it for you guys? I mean, I guess it's not too difficult, right? You do it on a daily basis, but to have an influx of all of the, as you said, everybody's unique. How long does it take from start to, there were supplements coming to my door for you guys to get the blood test, figure out everything, put everything in the correct packaging, the correct dosing? Like a multivitamin to me is a gummy. I assume you guys aren't making individual gummies for every person. That seems a little ridiculous, right? So how does the process work from start to finish, or start to me actually receiving my supplements?
So it's really fast. We turn around once we get all of the data, depending on how you're delivering it. So you're getting a lifestyle only product, which is personalized, but not as personalized as if you're taking a blood test and taking the DNA test. You can also upload data you have. So if you have a blood test or you have genetic data, you can upload that. But once we get all of your data, we produce just in time. So every single pack is personalized to every individual. And when I say that, it's 1 in 700 trillion or infinite combinations dosed down to the microgram or milligram. So this isn't kind of the fake personalization, which is personalization 1.0. This is true one-to-one, just-in-time produced products. So bespoke, kind of like you're even more personalized than like building your own car. Let's just call it that. We do all of that. You get products within 10 to 14 days.
That's incredible. How'd you guys, what does that supply chain look like? That must be nuts.
There's a lot going on in the back end. Like I said, we make complex things easy. So we simplify your vitamin routine, we simplify your stress management routine, and get you everything you need in a really personalized way as quickly as we can.
That's incredible. Well, shout out to you guys and the team. That is very impressive. 700 trillion, was that the number? Yeah, just make it a finite at that. Like, I'm never going to count to 700 trillion. So I guess on the actual, like, the marketing side of it. So as you said before, the 2020 pandemic, I mean, a lot of bad things came from it. I like to turn positives into negatives. I think so many people actually paid attention to their health and realized, wait a second, this could be bad for me, right? Anyone that was overweight was immediately at high risk. Anybody that had certain diseases that were preventative or almost caused by themselves, right? Those things, smokers, that's easy. It's not a disease, it's a choice, right? So those types of things, people started to realize, wait a second, I'm doing this to myself. This is making it worse for me. There's more opportunity that I could get sick and potentially cause some major, major harm to myself. Let's pay attention to this stuff. So I think that was kind of like a sweeping thing, a good thing that came from it. How have you guys focused on the investment into yourself side rather than an expense or a cost, right? Like, I have some friends that think of my Peloton as, wow, it costs you that many dollars a month. And I believe, well, I use it 20 times a month on top of other things that I do with it. I consider an investment in myself, right? How are you guys able to, especially from the marketing side, really push that message and push that narrative across to get people to understand, yeah, it costs a couple dollars, but you will not feel better ever in your life without taking this product?
Yeah, I think what you said and it's true is people are starting to take control of their health. The problem is that most people don't know how to do that, and there's a whole host of reasons why: political, like population based, all sorts of issues. But the gist of it is people don't know how to do it for the most part. And so what ends up happening is people do a lot of guesswork. They do guess and check. They figure out what's going on, what they think might work. And even they're listening to podcasts. They're listening to all this education. They're finding all this like misinformation or just information online. But the problem is that even clinical studies around nutrition, even the podcast, even everyone is not necessarily accounting for individual biology. And that's the problem. And that's why people waste a ton of time and a ton of money trying to figure out how to do it themselves. And that's a little bit of where kind of our marketing and how we think about it is that we're actually making it cheaper, faster, and easier for you to do this than ever before.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, just as a personal aside, my wife's pretty pregnant at this point, so she's been scrolling TikTok. Her algorithm's changed just a little bit over the last 8 months, and I have literally sat on the couch next to her while she listened to one person say one thing, swiped to the next thing, and it was the literal exact opposite thing for this same topic. And it's like, well, so you're consuming all this information, but it all cancels each other out. So it's just a complete waste of time because now it's analysis by paralysis. You don't want to make the wrong decision, so what do? You don't make any decision. And we're just here with our hands in the air. Like, I don't know. What are we going to do? What are we going to do, Rachel?
And when you're pregnant, you can't do the guess and check.
Exactly. Yes.
Piece of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. You had a couple kids. You kind of know how this stuff works. So, I'll make sure to let her know about that stuff too. And so, from that side as well, I think that's such a great way to think about it, right? Like, Rootine is saving you time, saving you effort, saving you energy, saving you money, and giving you the best possible product. You add all that stuff up, it makes the most sense. So, one thing that I've seen personally, throughout, I market. I like to look at what other people are doing, and Discord communities, Facebook group, LinkedIn groups, right? Those communities are starting to take hold because we all love being a part of tribe. We all love being a part of and thinking and appreciating a lot of the same things. I mean, we can take it out to cable news. That's another thing I'm super cynical about, but everyone wants to be a part of what they believe in, right? How have you guys looked at like community-based marketing or really just building a community around the people that love you guys the most and really giving them and getting them what they want when they want it?
Yeah, community is huge. And as you look at what we're doing, it's really this precision health movement. And 9 times out of 10, you say the word precision health and nobody has any idea what you're talking about. But the reality is it's just this concept of you get unique solutions in your health and wellness for you. And getting people around that is really interesting. People like to talk about what they're doing, what's worked for them, what hasn't. They like to figure out what's new. They like to figure out how to try stuff. And so that's really kind of where the community comes from. There's this whole world of people building, trying, innovating in the next generation of health and wellness solutions. And a lot of it's still pretty early in terms of how you think about mass adoption, right? And so the community around that is really, really strong, whether it's the podcast or we do have a Discord for the podcast, Precision Health Club, out of the Precision Health Pod. But this just like giving people a space to have the conversation, to connect, and to talk about it with other people who are interested and or building and or trying a lot of these new solutions that are coming on market.
Especially with, the few years of us not being able to go shake hands with each other. I joined a lot of Discord groups, a lot of Slack groups around some of the topics that I was interested in. It was just kind of nice. It's kind of nice to see people talking to each other. I didn't even have to be there. It was just kind of nice to see what was going on, right? Just kind of gives you a little extra sense of, to overuse the word community a bit. So kudos and congrats to you guys. I'll make sure the Discord link will be down. Obviously, the podcast stuff. We'll get to the podcast in a second. All that stuff will be in the show notes for everyone so they can go check it out. One of the last things before we do get to the podcast that I want to ask you about is working with athletes specifically. Obviously, your product, as we've been talking about, is for athletes. It is for people that are weekend warriors. It's someone like me who I ride my Peloton for 20 to 30 minutes, 3 or 4 days a week, but I still just want to feel better about myself. I have a couple extra dollars. Why not do something with it, right? I think that's important. Invest in yourself. I noticed you guys work with some Olympic gold medalists. You work with some UFC athletes. What are those conversations like? Who broaches that topic, and how do you choose the best athlete to represent your brand for what you guys are trying to do?
Yeah, we talk to high performers as our market. So it's for the chasers of billions. It's for the people who are type A trying to elevate at home, at work, or on the field, whether that's a mom who's trying to get a little bit more energy to take care of her kids, to the busy professional who's constantly on the go, to the professional athlete. And when we think about kind of building the brand and building what performance means, being an athlete, being a high performer, is part of that. And so, who are the athletes that are really high performing in their specific field? So, as you mentioned, we have some Olympic gold medalists. We've worked with NFL players. We've worked with women's soccer players, with UFC fighters, where they're each kind of at the top of their game in their game, and they have their own communities, their own niche, but they all care about leveling up. They care about their nutrition. They know personalization matters. They know testing and understanding their body matters. And so when we kind of work with athletes, it's people who we work with on a long-term basis. It's not just a, hey, here's our product for free, do a post and like we're done. It's a much longer term. They love our product. They love the brand. They really do everything, and so they're talking about what we do from personal experience. They're taking the products and really like sharing with their communities something that works for them, to support them as they go do what they do best.
Yeah, and I think you brought it up before, right? Some of these athletes have had access to this type of information for thousands and thousands of dollars for a while, right? These teams have incredible health facilities that you can get down to the very nitty-gritty of what's going on in every one of their bodies, because there's a lot of dollars tied to sports now, right? We see it all the time. How many, whatever team's going to sell for $6 billion next. So now that these athletes, the teams want the athletes to perform at the absolute highest level. If they're getting this information already, and now they can get even better or more information from you guys, and then the exact supplements that they need, that is such a perfect partnership to say, hey, look, I do this for a living. Like, I understand the mom that wants a little energy to chase the kids around. Hell yeah, go for it. That's awesome. I would say I put my body on the line a little bit more. Some would say put their body on the line a little bit more, right? In some of their respective sports. And the opportunity then comes to say, hey, I truly believe in this company, what they're doing, their message. It helps me to perform at the absolute highest level. Very confident it can help you perform at your highest level as well. I think that message is so easy, so clear, and such a great job on your guys' part for putting some of that stuff together.
Yeah, and not every athlete has the same access either.
True.
So there's definitely, the NFL has a lot of money. Other sports have less money than the NFL.
Yeah. Olympic athletes, specifically Olympic athletes, right? Like, there are some health and wellness centers, right, in Colorado Springs, down in, I think there's one in California somewhere, right? But at the same time, I worked for the U.S. rowing team. I didn't work directly with the athletes, so I can't say, one-to-one. But I remember the girl that would come in every month and talk to the athletes. That was kind of it. She'd come in and talk about some of the cool things that's going on, and then she'd come back. So it wasn't nearly as specific as obviously you guys are doing.
Yeah. Exactly.
I love it. Good stuff, Rachel. Well, let's talk about the podcast. You're on a podcast. You have a podcast. We have to talk about the podcast. You've already brought it up a little bit, the Precision Health Podcast. Did you always want to be a podcast host? Do you love talking into a microphone as much as I do?
I love it. I think it's a really great medium for sharing education and knowledge. And really where the podcast was built out of is part of what we do as a company, me as a human, is helping people understand the complexity that is data-driven health, and how we can just improve our health, how we can take what we know about ourselves, understand it a little bit better, and make ourselves perform better. And part of that is really talking to the people that are building, experiencing, and kind of thinking about all of these questions. So we've had some great guests on it. Mateo at 8 Sleep. We've had folks from the Levels team, folks from Form, Plunge, talking about cold plunging, more AI around CGMs and metabolic health. We've had some investors who are really thinking about this. So it's for anyone that wants to go deeper into what's going on in health now, and how the future of health really looks, from the people that are building it and on the ground doing it.
Yeah, I think it's so cool to think of some of this stuff, kind of as we were talking about before. You saw a lot of this stuff coming down the pipeline because you were a little bit higher up the funnel than some of us. And it's so cool now that you get to continue to speak and really share the messages and the ideas of what's coming, because I think it's only once you see companies like Apple and Google investing however many dollars they're interested in doing this, clearly there's a reason, right? And I believe it's the data. Again, a little cynical on my side. But I believe it's the data, and it's the way to the positive that comes from is obviously the personalization per person that then allows us to be our best selves. And that's something that I truly believe in. I try and practice every day. So shout out to you guys. When do the episodes drop? How often are you how often do you guys record? Give us a little bit more about the show.
Episodes drop bi-weekly on Wednesdays. And so we've got about 17 episodes live, a number of other recorded. So please go check it out anywhere you get normal podcasts. But yeah, we've had some athletes on it as well, and we dive deep into their kind of what are their habits for that they really value for their physical health, but also their mental health. How do they stay strong as they think about performing, but also as they think about maybe what's next. And that's true for all our guests. We go deeper into what their health stack is, what little tips, tricks, habits really help them stay optimal.
I love it. And what's next for Routine? What are you cooking up in the lab that maybe you could tell us a little bit about? Anything fun coming down the pipeline?
We're really passionate about just helping meet people where they are and getting to the places and the health goals that people really care about. Stress was number one. It's number one nationally. It's a huge kind of pandemic. We're going through a mental health crisis post-pandemic now, but it's also one of the number one kind of health goals on top of daily nutrition that our members really care about. So that's where we launched. And so continuing to dive in on those categories that people care a lot about that can really move the needle in terms of how people feel on a day-to-day basis. But also, as you mentioned, there's a lot of chronic disease that people feel. There's a lot of chronic concerns that people feel that are not necessarily choices, but they can be prevented. There's lifestyle changes, there's nutrition changes that can be done earlier on to improve health span, to improve longevity, to help combat this like horrible chronic disease situation that we're in the US, where health is actually declining on the whole. And so thinking about those questions and continuing to deliver simple, easy to follow answers for those is stuff that we're really excited about.
Keep it simple. I love it. It's so much easier to do. And I'm also a very big proponent of prehab and not rehab. Why not try and prevent something from happening? Why wait for something bad to happen and trying to fix it? It's way harder to fix things than it is to keep them unbroken, in my opinion. So I love what you guys are doing. I think that's awesome. Rachel, where can we follow you? Where can we follow the brand, the podcast? We already said it, anywhere podcasts are found. But tell us one more time. That's always fun. And the Discord as well.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, Rachel S. Sanders, or on LinkedIn, Rachel Soper Sanders. You can find Routine at routine, rootine.co. And the podcast and the Discord is Precision Health Pod. And you can find information about the Discord on most of those podcasts as well.
Love it. Well, thank you so much one more time. Rachel Sanders, CEO, co-founder of Routine, host of the Precision Health Podcast. Rachel, time's the only thing we don't get more of, so thank you so much for giving me some of yours. I appreciate the audience for giving us some of theirs. But other than that, hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks so much for having me.
Bye, everybody.